Hi guys, today I'm going to show you how to fill in your brows. And the first technique that I'm going to show you is a basic technique. And here are my brows bare with nothing in them. And the first thing that you want to do is comb through your brows. I like using a brush, and this just gets all the hairs in one direction so that it's easier to fill in. And there are two ways that you can fill in your brows. You can use a pencil, which I like to use. This is my favorite one, even though it's upside down. It's by Sonia Kashuk and it's in the color taupe. Or you can use powder, and this is just an eyeshadow palette from Sonia Kashuk that has all matte shades. You want something that's going to be matte, and you want a shadow with gray undertones will work best for everyone. And the first thing that I do is I like to fill in the bottom part of my brow. I like to create that nice line on the bottom, and then I will go and I'll fill up the top part. And this is just going to give me the basic shape of my brows. So I move the pencil in short strokes just to fill in the sparse areas. And then once I have the shape that I like, I'll go in and fill in the entire brow on the inside. So it's kind of like you're outlining your brows. And in the front of my brow, I kind of just like to go upwards, and this gives me a more natural look. And when you're done, you want to brush through your brows to smooth out any lines, and this goes for shadow and pencil application. And this just smooths everything out and makes everything look natural. So here you can see the difference between a filled in brow and a bare brow. This technique is really subtle. It's going to be very natural, but the second technique that I'm going to show you is going to give you a little bit more definition. So if you want your brows to stand out just a little bit more and maybe not be so natural, then what you can do is you can go in with an eyeshadow, a matte eyeshadow, and an angled brush, and you can fill in the bottom part. So I'm going to be doing the same steps that I did before, except I'm not going to go all the way in. So I'm going to leave the front of my brow still pretty soft. And now I'm just going to trace the top part of my brow. And you can work in small strokes if you want, if that's easier for you. Or you can drag the brush across the top, and that'll give you a nice smooth line. And then once you've created the shape that you like, and then you just want to fill in what you just outlined. And again, I'm not going to go all the way to the front of my brow. And then the finishing step is to go through it with a brush, and this just smooths everything out so you don't see any lines. Of course, you can always fill in the front part of your brow if you want to extend it, but this is just the technique that I like to do. And here you can see the difference between a defined brow and a natural looking brow. If you want it to look even more defined and clean, here is the next technique that I'm going to show you. So here you can see that my brows look really defined, but now I'm just going to clean them up. And what you can do is get a concealer brush and some concealer, and this technique is called carving out your brows. And you just want to carefully drag the concealer brush right underneath the brows, and this is going to make everything look really sharp and clean. And an extra bonus is that it highlights your brow bone. So you just want to carefully just drag it across, and you can already see the difference of how nice and clean everything looks. And you can stop here if you like, if you just want to define underneath the brow. And I always just go with my finger to blend it out. You can stop there if you like, but if you want it to look even more crisp and clean, you can also carve out the top portion of your brow. So I just like to put my concealer brush at an angle to get that really nice sharp line. And then I turn it to the side to kind of blend out the concealer. And then again, you just go with your finger to blend everything out. You want to be careful that you don't use a really light concealer, because then it could look really artificial and not as natural. and then it's just going to bring a lot of focus onto your eyebrows. So you want to keep it at least just one shade lighter than your foundation. And here you go. Here you can see that it looks really nice and clean, whereas this one is defined but not as clean as the one I just did. And now the finishing touches to your brows is you can set them with a clear brow gel. I'm using the Anastasia one. It's a really good brow gel. And if you want, you can also set the concealer with the powder if you don't want it to move anywhere. And it's really up to you guys. You can use a variation of these techniques if you want to have a more natural brow, but maybe you want to clean it up. You can mix it up and get your own custom look. And here are the brows finished. So these are the finished brows with a full face of makeup. I hope you guys found this video helpful, and thank you for watching, and I will see you in my next video.